Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. I am Emma and today I'm so happy because I'm joined by my friend Lena together. We're going to have a calm and meaningful conversation about something very important, how to advance your English. But before we begin, let me remind you of something. Most of you who watch our videos, almost 99% of you are not subscribed yet. Come on, my friends, hit that subscribe button. Join our growing family and let's learn and improve together. Now let's dive into today's discussion. Lena, I think many people get stuck after learning the basics of English. They know greetings, they can introduce themselves. Maybe they can talk a little about their hobbies, but then they stop. They don't know how to go from beginner to advanced. And I always tell them the key is practice, practice, and more practice. Not the kind of practice where you repeat the same easy sentences again and again, but real practice where you push yourself into new situations. If you only stay in your comfort zone, your English will never grow.
You're so right, Emma. I think advancing your English is like building muscle in the gym. If you keep lifting the same light weight every day, your body won't change. But when you challenge yourself with something heavier, that's when you grow stronger. English works the same way. You need to challenge yourself with harder books, deeper conversations, longer writing at first. It feels difficult, but little by little you realize, wow, I can do this. And that's when your English starts moving from basic to advanced.
One of the strongest ways to advance your English is through reading. But not just any reading, reading with purpose. I remember when I was trying to improve, I didn't just read short articles or simple stories. I started reading newspapers, novels, even biographies of famous people. At first, I struggled because there were so many words I didn't understand. But instead of giving up, I made a little notebook where I wrote down every new word, its meaning, and a sentence I created myself. That habit changed everything for me. Reading was no longer passive, it became active learning.
That's so true, Emma. I always tell people, reading in English is like sitting with a teacher who is showing you how the language works. You see how sentences are built, how ideas are connected, how emotions are expressed. And the more you read, the more natural English starts to feel in your head. For me, I loved reading novels because they carried me into another world. And while I was enjoying the story, I was also improving my English without even noticing. Reading makes your vocabulary grow, and it also makes your thinking in English much faster.
Another powerful step is listening. People sometimes think, I'll just listen once in a while, but that's not enough. Listening should be like breathing. It should be part of your daily routine. I used to listen to English podcasts while walking. I played English songs while cooking. And I even kept English news channels running in the background. Even when I didn't understand everything, my brain was learning the rhythm, the pronunciation, the natural speed of English. That constant exposure makes your ears smarter.
Exactly. Listening daily is what makes English come alive. When you listen a lot, you stop translating in your head. You just start understanding. I think that's one of the biggest steps to becoming advanced. I also recommend listening to different accents. Don't just listen to American English or British English, try Australian, Canadian, African, even Asian speakers. The world is full of voices, and English has many faces. If you train your ear to understand different accents, you will never feel lost in a conversation, no matter where you go.
Now, let's talk about speaking. So many people are shy when it comes to speaking English. They think, what if I make a mistake? What if people laugh at me? And because of that fear, they stay quiet. But here's the truth. Mistakes are not the enemy. Silence is. You will never get better by staying silent. Every mistake you make is proof that you are trying. And every time you try, you move closer to fluency.
Yes, Emma. I remember when I first started speaking English. I sounded funny, my grammar was broken, and my sentences were short. But I kept going. I spoke with friends, with teachers, even with strangers online. Every conversation was like a little gym session for my mouth and brain. And slowly I gained confidence. Today, I don't care if I make small mistakes. I know I can express myself, and people understand me. Confidence is not about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to speak.
Writing is one of the most underrated skills in learning English. People think writing is boring, but actually, writing helps you organize your thoughts. When you write in English, you learn to structure sentences, connect ideas, and use vocabulary properly. I used to keep a daily journal in English. Every night, I wrote about my day, what I learned, how I felt, what I planned for tomorrow. That small habit built my grammar and vocabulary naturally.
I agree, Emma. Writing doesn't need to be complicated. You can start with small text messages to friends, short essays, or even social media posts in English. The more you write, the more confident you become in forming sentences. And later, when you speak, those same structures you practiced in writing come out naturally. Writing is like planting seeds, and speaking is enjoying the fruit. Both are connected, and both are important for advancing your English.
One of the greatest breakthroughs is when you start thinking in English. Most learners translate from their language into English, and that makes speaking slow. But when you think directly in English, everything becomes faster. I trained myself by describing things around me in English. For example, when I was walking, I thought, the sky is blue, the birds are flying, the wind is soft, simple sentences, but over time, my brain stopped depending on translation.
That's brilliant, Emma. Thinking in English is like moving into a new home. It feels strange at first, but then it becomes natural. I also practice this by asking myself questions in English and then answering them in English. For example, what am I going to eat today? And then I would answer myself in English. It sounds funny, but it really works. The more you think in English, the closer you are to being advanced.
Another step is creating an English environment. Even if you don't live in an English-speaking country, I changed the language on my phone and laptop to English. I watched English movies without subtitles, and I joined online English groups. Everywhere I looked, I saw English. This constant exposure makes you feel like you're living in English, even if you are not.
That's the secret, Emma. You create your own English world. When I wanted to advance, I decorated my room with English quotes. I listened to English radio. And I even cooked using English recipes. It was fun, and it made English part of my lifestyle. Learning becomes easier when it's not just a subject in school, but a part of who you are.
Mistakes are not failure, they are teachers. Every mistake shows you what you need to work on. When I made mistakes, I used to feel embarrassed. But then I realized they were helping me grow. Instead of hiding from mistakes, I started writing them down and practicing the correct form.
Yes, mistakes are like mirrors. They show you where you are and where you need to go. I used to make so many pronunciation mistakes, but each time someone corrected me, I felt grateful. Without mistakes, we cannot improve. The most advanced learners are not the ones who never made mistakes, but the ones who made thousands of mistakes and kept going.
Today, we are lucky because technology makes learning English so easy. We have apps, websites, podcasts, online classes. You can practice English at any time, from anywhere. I used language exchange apps to connect with people around the world, and it was free. Technology is like having a teacher in your pocket.
That's so true. When I was learning, I watched YouTube videos every day. I used flashcard apps to learn vocabulary, and I joined online communities. Technology is powerful, but only if you use it consistently. If you spend your time scrolling social media in your language, you waste time. But if you use the same phone to practice English, you grow.
Without goals, learning becomes slow. I always set small goals for myself, like learning 10 new words a day or finishing one English book in a month. Those small goals kept me moving forward.
Yes, goals are like a map. They show you where you are going. When I had no goals, I was just walking without direction. But when I set clear goals, I felt motivated. And every time I achieved one, I felt proud and ready for the next challenge.
Motivation is like fuel. Some days you feel full of energy, other days you feel tired. On the hard days, I reminded myself why I started, because English would change my life. Because it would open doors. Remembering your why is what keeps you going.
That's right. Motivation is not always about being excited. Sometimes it's about being disciplined. Even when I didn't feel like studying, I told myself, just 15 minutes. And often, those 15 minutes turned into 1 hour. Motivation grows when you take small steps.
Finally, advancing your English is a lifelong journey. Even today, I'm still learning new words, new expressions, new ways to communicate. English, it's not something you finish, it's something you live with.
Exactly, Emma. The beautiful thing is, the more you learn, the more confident you feel, and the more opportunities come to you. My advice to everyone watching: don't stop. Keep reading, keep listening, keep speaking, keep writing. One day, you will look back and realize how far you have come.